Well, that's made things very exciting at the top of the table. Buendia in the right place at the right time, stayed composed and scored a late winner, literally the last kick of the game.
Yeah, I mean, absolute scenes, I think, for Aston Villa. And, they deserved it. When they put on that kind of intense performance, there's not many that can stay with them. Unai Emery, when he gets that team whipped up, and now that he's got the squad, where he's got players that he can bring off the bench that are going to make a difference, he can pull off the likes of Watkins, if not, he's got that ability now with that squad to change a game and to keep with the best. And I was just so impressed with their attitude and their quality yesterday to go toe-to-toe with Arsenal.
Yeah, the turnaround has been remarkable. They're the Premier League's formed team. No wins in their opening 5 games. Now they've won 9 and 10.
Yeah, unbelievable. Fantastic by Unai Emery and his men. I think there was a fear that they maybe hadn't signed enough players in the summer, that squad churn hadn't been enough, and it was maybe becoming a bit stale at Villa Park. Well, weren't we just wrong? Because what he's gone on to put together this run. Ollie Watkins, before I get into Ollie Watkins, with it being a last-minute winner, it looks like they kind of rescued the game or nicked the game later on. That wasn't the case at all. I thought David Raya was outstanding on the afternoon, made a bunch of top saves. I thought Ollie Watkins going forward was superb, restored confidence after the Brighton game midweek, and then obviously had that belief and tenacity to go on and keep creating those chances. And Buendia, yeah, I mean, it was a special moment for all those at Villa Park.
Yeah, we're going to look at the goal again, and credit to Unai Emery as well, because with the game at 1-1, he did make very positive substitutions. Buendia was one of them.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, they both did. To be fair to Arteta, he made incredibly attacking substitutions. It was just a slugfest between the two of them, and it just so happens that, look, if you get enough bodies in the box, you keep it alive as they do. Ryan makes a couple of saves. It's just a mess, isn't it, in the end? And then you're just looking, has someone got a bit of composure at the end? Such a lovely finish from Buendia, who's got that ability. I felt for Arsenal a little bit, just because they played their part in the game. That wasn't because Arteta was cautious. That was simply, they both went for it, and Villa came out on top.
Yeah, and whereas Buendia showed composure in that chaos in the end there's very little composure from the Arsenal defence. At that point, you're getting a point at a ground that's very difficult to go to. But it was a defence minus a number of the star players. Yeah,
when you're looking at Timber and Nkapia at centre-back, Aston Villa would have seen that line-up at the start of the game and they would have thought, this is the best point you could ever play Arsenal from a weakness point of view. Mosquera, not even revealed, he's a third-choice centre-back. Gabriel and Saliba, they're 2 rocks at the back. But listen, this is a season, this is a Premier League season. It's tough, it's physical, and you've got to, like the medical staff, have got to work just as hard as the playing staff sometimes to keep those guys fit. And you're judged on a full season, and this is all part of it. So yeah, we kind of lauded Arteta for his depth in his squad. But even that slightly let him down to a certain extent over recent weeks.
Yeah, now the gap is just 2 points. They've been here before. How much deja vu, how much nerves, how much of a psychological battle is it now?
Well, it just depends whether they're feeling some of the feelings that everyone else is trying to portray towards them, which is that they're feeling the pressure. They're struggling to get results when they really have to, or it feels like they should do. But they're still top of the league, and they're still in a great position, and they'll still have them players to come back. They're still defensively excellent. Again, I couldn't really fault them or them and Arteta yesterday in terms of their approach. It's just they didn't come out on top yesterday. But I think, for me, they're still very much the favourites, and I still expect them to go on and win the league.
Everyone's looking at Manchester City, just 2 points behind, but only 1 point further behind is Aston Villa themselves.
Yeah, exactly. When I get a look at Arsenal, obviously there's a lot of noise in the media, but that's through recent history and that's through their own performances. We're judging them on what they've done, and they need to show that experience and that know-how and that growth to be able to manage the situation, because yes, they are still top, but they could have been in a much more dominant position, especially when you get a look at the sides below them, probably not quite at full tilt.
Yeah, Manchester City breathing down their necks. A perfect afternoon for them then. But Salah, one of Liverpool's greatest players, he talks about it in his statement there. I'm sure you can empathise in a way when he's saying, for 3 games in a row, I've been benched. For 2, I haven't even been playing. Even though everyone's been criticised, he seems to be, as he said, being thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I think he'll feel disrespected, that's for sure. He'll probably feel as if, even though they won the title last season, of which he was a massive part of, that Arne Slot's only been at the club, a few minutes. He's been there a long time, and how dare he kind of disrespect me in this way, not bring Mo Salah on in a game where they need a goal, sends a big message to Mo Salah and to Liverpool supporters from the manager. But ultimately, Salah's been incredibly selfish with his reaction. And when you're at a club like Liverpool, when you are playing in a team sport like football, and you're trying to be harmonious, this is certainly not going to help. I mean, I can't imagine this week what Liverpool's training ground's going to be like, what it's going to be like between him and the manager and the other players. Some might not be particularly happy with his comments, and even though it might have been the heat of the moment, he knows what reaction this will get.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has been very calculated in terms of the, clapping the fans at the end on his own, giving an interview when Mo Salah doesn't really do interviews, doing one after that game, and saying things like, I've told my family to come to the Brighton game.
Yeah, like you say, he doesn't do many interviews, and I feel as though when he does speak to the media, he speaks and it lands, because it holds weight when he doesn't do much. Again, he's correct in what he says about not going to be around for a while. How long that is, who knows? Obviously, he feels very passionately about the situation. I'm sure that he's raised these concerns internally, probably felt like he wasn't getting anywhere, so he felt as though he had to externally and use that power. But I just wonder how this goes down in Liverpool with the fans and the football club. Me, personally, I think this situation is rescuable. I don't think it's the end for Mo Salah, with a full stop after it. I think this situation can be rectified with a bit of patience and communication, but it depends if both parties want to rectify it.
I think we're also wondering, what's it going to be like in that dressing room? What's it going to be like on the plane to Milan ahead of the Champions League this week? I mean, have you guys ever been in a situation like that? Have you yourself done it? Has a teammate done it?
I remember being at West Ham when Craig Bellamy was very vocal and would come back in, but to be fair to him, he didn't care what we thought. But it's what's interesting, even in these sort of situations, it will either be a bit awkward or the players laugh about it and make it a bit of a joke. So it would be interesting to see how that lands, as Glenn says, in the dressing room. But ultimately, I think his demeanour says he doesn't want to be there, and it might not be rectifiable from his perspective. That's how I feel about it.
And it puts Arne Slot in such a difficult situation as well, because he's made the big and bold decision to drop Mo Salah. He's not played him in 2 games, as you mentioned, games where he needed a goal, especially like the one against Leeds. Now they go to Inter Milan. Now there is that Brighton game before Salah goes off to AFCON. What does he do? Does he play him as a reaction to this? Does he leave him on the bench and risk perhaps Salah not returning from AFCON to Liverpool?
I mean, this is a complete guess, but I'm sure it'll take a bit of kudos from up above, see what they think about the situation, see how they want it managed. But I feel as though Arne Slot now has the autonomy to be able to not play him. I don't think you can buckle as a manager when a player rants like that to the media. I don't think you can show weakness and just put him back in, because that shows that the player's stronger than you are. So I fully expect Arne Slot not to pick him. Listen, what the message is from up above, who knows?
You're saying the situation is rescuable from Liverpool's point of view doesn't necessarily mean there's a full stop. Does Salah make the best 11 of Liverpool currently?
Listen, regardless of how good you are or how well you've performed, and listen, he has been one of the Premier League greats, he's been one of Liverpool's greats, without any doubt, that isn't in question. But recent performances, everyone gets judged. This game doesn't sit still for any man. Yes, it's give him credit, it's give him a bit more time, but ultimately his performances, and I think he'll probably admit, and this is probably part of the outcome of the frustration boiling over, they haven't been up to scratch or what we would expect and what he would expect.
Yeah, he's probably looking around and saying, well, the same could be said of a lot of my teammates. Why me? And I suppose that goes back to what you had said about the disrespect that, he might be feeling, and could be feeling? Do you think Salah makes the best 11 right now?
I think he was right to drop him at the time that Arne Slot did, because his performances weren't anywhere near. His body language wasn't particularly great. He wasn't helping defensively in that right back area that was such an issue. Teams were targeting that area.
Has he ever?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. But ultimately, you know, from the manager perspective, I don't think it was the worst decision to drop him. But now it feels like he's really making a point when the defence has been pretty terrible and they haven't been dropped, Konate, Van Dijk, etc. So that's then when you start to think as a player, is it just, am I being targeted internally? And we are inherently selfish. You have to be to make it anyway. And he is that real elite player that's got so much drive. I think he feels he's been so disrespected. I don't really think there's probably a way back now.
Yeah, that kind of winner's mentality and the hunger and the ego that comes with being a player that has the stature of Mo Salah, is that a little bit what we're seeing here, do you think?
Yeah, without doubt. And do you know what, we talk about him being on the bench. I remember when Ronaldo got left on the bench by Ten Hag and he brought him on with 3 minutes, and that was disrespectful. So you can't win sometimes. Like, when do you bring Mo Salah on? When will he be happy to be brought on? This, I think, and I hope for the Premier League's good, I think he gets in Liverpool's first 11 in his pomp, without any doubt. He's a world-class athlete and a world-class football player. I hope for the good of the Premier League and the good of Liverpool that they can manage to rescue this situation, because it would be awful to see him leave under a cloud after what he's achieved.
What we do have is a Mo Salah heading off to AFCON under this cloud, and I'm sure that Egypt will be very happy to have him show up determined to prove himself. We'll keep an eye on that situation very closely. Everyone around the world will be, of course. So we still remember Mo Salah's last interview. I'm more out than in. He doesn't do any, he only does headlines, does Mo Salah. Speaking of headlines.
Mate, that one hurt. Losing to Aston Villa like that, right at the death, it stings in a way only football can. Because this was exactly the type of match title-winning teams usually find a way to survive. But at the same time, you've got to look at the context. We played without Gabriel, without Saliba, with Timber and Hincapié thrown into the heart of defence in one of the toughest atmospheres in the Premier League. Villa Park was absolutely bouncing, and Villa under Emery are no joke. They've been flying, playing with the belief of a side that genuinely thinks it can beat anyone. And even then, Arsenal stayed in the game till the very last second. The text says Villa deserved it. And fair enough. They probably did. But let's be real, Arsenal weren't dominated. Raya had to work, yes, but we also pushed forward, created chances, and made it a proper battle. There was no fear, no sitting back. Arteta went for the win. As a fan, what frustrates me most is that lack of composure in the final moment. Missing our starting centre-back partnership, it showed massively. And the gutting feeling of letting a huge point slip away. But anyone suggesting Arsenal are feeling the pressure clearly isn't watching the full picture. We're still top, still strong, still consistent, even with half our defence missing. No meltdown, no crisis, just frustration and lessons. And honestly, I'd rather see Arsenal go down swinging than play scared. The season is long. City are still behind, Villa are still behind, and we're only going to get stronger once the injured lads return. This title race is far from over, not even close. Right then, Gooners, before you head off, I want to hear from you. Who was your standout player in this match? Drop it down in the comments below, because your take matters here on the channel. Let's get the debate going. Come on, you Gunners.